Good and always fresh to come back to you live from the metropolis, of course, Ghana, Accra. My name is Eskin, they call me Rev. This is Ready to Work, powered by ABSA. Beautiful Thursday morning. And of course, I'm joined here this morning by two gentlemen I'll introduce in the course of the show. But for the sake of my first-time listeners, ABSA Ghana uses education and skills development as a pillar in playing a shaping role in preparing the youth for the future. For a very long time now, we've been sitting here every single time on the Ready to Work platform to educate ourselves. I say ourselves because it's always a learning curve for me as an individual. We learn so much about how to prepare ourselves for work while we're in school, how to even see and recognize our strengths and how to build on them and all that. Now, ABSA Bank's commitment to youth empowerment in Ghana here has received a massive boost with a partnership with Amazon Web Service on cloud computing skills here in Ghana. Now, the bank has been active, a participant in supporting the youth over several years with transformative initiatives like Ready to Work, which we're on now, which supports skills development and national science and maths quiz on the side as well. Now, the bank's strategy also embraces the drive to harness the potential of the Ghanaian youth in digital technology and vocational competencies. So beyond inspiring young people to take up their lives, inspiring young people to get into the right careers, we're also funding innovative projects that will go a long way to shape our country in terms of STEM and beyond all that. Now, thanks to the partnership with Amazon Web Services, ABSA has partnered with IPMC to embed cloud computing skills amongst many youth in tertiary institutions and, of course, empower them to embrace or be able to embrace the future of technology with confidence and then optimism. Now, today's webinar, onto main business while we're here, takes a different tangent. Because we're doing a little bit more technical. We're doing something very technical, I should say, with relations to what we've been learning so far. So I really want to entreat every single one in here today, including myself, to pay close attention to the guest I have this morning as we break down cloud. We've heard so much about that. You've seen it online. I'm sure you might have heard it at your workspace. But if you're lost, today is the redemption day for you. Now, let me start off with a quote by Mark Bainoff, founder and CEO, chairman at Salesforce. It says, if someone asks him what cloud computing is, he's not going to really worry himself over definitions. He basically will tell the person it's the better way to running a business, or the best way to run your business. And so the conversation today will cover what cloud is, the importance of cloud computing, the role it plays in the different workspaces, and how to better equip ourselves. Of course, in between that, we shall break out a few misconceptions, clear them so that we can better understand what cloud computing is about. As always, if you have a question in the course of this we're doing, make sure you drop it in the comment box. For my family members watching on Zoom, watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, if you have a question, just note it in the comment box or write it down. When it's time for us to take your questions, we'll definitely get in there. It's you and I running this today. Let me move on straight to my guests this morning, my panelists for today's conversation. Mr. Justice Amegashi is Chief Information and Enablement Officer at ABSA Bank. Welcome to Ready to Work.
Thank you for having me.
And then over to my far left, Mr. Daniel Ajari Boateng, Head of Academics at IPMC. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to Ready to Work. I'm super excited to be with you. I get very excited, extra excited when I get the men who come in wearing their suits. Yes, they are full of surprises. Along the line, I always wish they could just take it off and then we'll go deeper into the conversation. But let me understand, of course, my listeners and I understand the roles your various positions play in youth development. Let us understand who is the Chief Enablement Officer, and then we'll come back to you, Mr. Ajari.
Okay, thank you, and I'm glad to be here. So, Chief Enablement Officer, it's basically a role that's looking at ensuring that we are making use of technology, right, to come up with solution for our customers, ultimately to deliver value to them and allow them to bring their possibilities to life. it's made up of various parts where you're ensuring that the technologies that the bank uses are fit for purpose, they are modern, and also they are future-proof, ensuring that as technology continuously changes, you're able to use those technologies to add value to the lives of the customers you serve and the society as a whole. So in a nutshell, I mean, that's what a Chief Enablement Officer does.
Basically. Yeah. And so, Mr. Daniel Ajari Boateng is Head of Academics at IPMC. What does your duty entail, and what are some of the activities you're involved in, your day-to-day activities at IPMC?
Okay. IPMC, there are a lot of things that involve academic. Developing curriculum, planning of courses, introducing new technology, and because we are in the IT world, day in and day out, new technology comes out, and you have to make sure that you bring it on board. And then we also make sure that all faculties are well trained before handling students. And then we have to train them anytime new technology comes up as well, because they have to get abreast with the technology before they can train. And then we also mentor students, because there are a lot of students that come without any knowledge in IT at all, but you have to mentor them and make sure that you direct them to the right path where they have to, they can learn and be able to fit into the world. So when it comes to projects as well, corporate project and all that, my assistant is needed there, because I have to define the programs that need to be sold or sold to the corporate world as well. So when we come to academics, all aspects of the education, yes, I'm there. Yeah.
Okay. So still on you, I mean, because yours is mostly involved with education and training of students into the corporate sector, just give us a fair idea the scope you educate when it comes to the corporate sector. What fields do you only educate students who, or people who are going to enter into the corporate field, finance, technology, science, media? What type of students do you come across?
We don't have a specific student, but we make them. Regardless of whichever field we are coming from, we can make you fit into the technology, because technology, everyone is using technology. We all use phones, we all use other technologies all around. So when you come, we try to find out where you can be well fit in and where your interest is. We don't also force courses on you, but we explain all aspects of businesses to you, and then we try to see where your interest is, then we build you through that line. So all aspects of education, if you come into IPMC, we'll find a particular technology for you to.
All right, so on to the main question for this morning, cloud and cloud computing. Because it's a technical term, I want us to better understand what it entails. When cloud computing comes up, what comes to mind, or what do you know about cloud computing?
Okay, thanks. When cloud computing comes up, it's transformation for me. That's the word that pops up. Transformation because it's important in as much as technologies are coming up. The value of technology is when it delivers business value, right? Technologies in isolation, they're just nice to have, but they ultimately need to deliver business value. Specifically cloud. Once you mention cloud, you're basically looking at on-demand delivery of computing resources, right? And it's mostly done over the internet. Maybe just to add a bit of color or break it down for our viewers and our listeners. Currently, each of us has a device, your laptop, etc. Now, cloud affords you the opportunity not to be so, do I say, invested in having physical infrastructure, i.e. your computer,
your
and hard drive, trying to solution for items yourself. Cloud allows you to be able to access all of that computing power at the click of a button, right? So you don't have to invest in that infrastructure yourself. So that's why I was mentioning it's on demand. You can access it anywhere, anyhow, anytime, from any device. Your iPad, your computer, your laptop, you can access it everywhere. And now, the other bit that I was highlighting was around it being on demand, right? Now, once you're done with the on demand, you also have it over the internet, right? And that's why accessibility comes into play, being able to access it at any point in time. So I think maybe I'd give an example so that our colleagues can understand it better. Currently, we all have an email address, right? You don't have an email solution sitting on your laptop anywhere. You have your Gmail. You just log in, create your Gmail access, send mails, upload documents. Have you ever wondered where it goes to? It's not on a physical computer, right? It's powered by cloud and it's sitting there. And it's readily available. Each time you go and you log in, you have access to that data, right? And that's the power of cloud computing. You've not had to invest anything to have access to that data. You just need your laptop, you log in, and that data is stored any and everywhere, and you can just access it real time.
Anytime.
Yes, so that's just a brief summary of cloud computing. I'm sure we'll delve deeper.
Yes, but I would want us to touch on one thing. I'll come back to you on that. But Mr. Jari, what about you? What comes to mind? I mean, you are a tech person. You train students. Do you have a different perspective to cloud computing aside what?
In fact, he has said all.
He said it all.
But I just have to add something small to it. With technology, infrastructures are always expensive. And you need to have servers and other things. Most companies cannot afford that. So the best thing is people have the infrastructures, they have all the applications, because getting the license for each application is also quite expensive. So all that have been set up for you. Just pay.
Just tap into it.
And then tap into it. And then they don't charge you at the initial stage. As when you use whichever application you use, that is when you pay for. So it rather reduces unnecessary spending of buying higher equipment for just a small company or even a bigger company. And when it comes to that as well, data security is one important thing we have to look at. Our companies don't have good security system, but experts are there who will manage your data for you. And the data is ensured because wherever there's a mishap with the data, the organization who is hosting your cloud services is going to pay for it.
Okay. So I think we're going a little bit more technical with the words. So in relation to what you said, where the information goes is the host, right? The person facilitating the entire process for you to have a back end where the information is kept or data is kept. That's where the host comes in.
That's the
okay.
provider.
Now, help us understand how the system worked before the introduction of cloud computing or cloud systems. Because from what you said, there's a back end of information, a log where workers and people who work around the different products can actually access and then process data or access it anywhere. Let's say there's a branch here in Accra, a Kumasi branch can access information easily. Before that was introduced, how were things working? If let's say there's information here, do you have to drive all the way to Kumasi, or help us understand?
Thanks. And before that, all of this cloud computing, networking, and all of that, you had solutions being in isolation, right? And I'll try not to be too technical.
Okay.
Let's say you have a banking solution, right? At that time, you had standalone, infrastructure. So you've set up your servers. Servers are just larger computers that enterprises use. So you had your servers set up, and you had a solution or a software on top of that server, and it's in a particular location serving a particular branch. Then you have branch B also having that particular setup. So just imagine if you have your branches scattered around, initially you didn't have a way to network them such that if I was to go to branch A and transact, you have a view of what I did in
branch B
when I go
that
there,
makes
right?
sense.
Now, then came being able to network your branches, right? The internet supporting networking, connectivity, all of that, World Wide Web came into being. Now you're able to network your branches, but you still had your singular data center. A data center just houses your infrastructure. It's isolated. You had that sitting somewhere, and all your branches were connecting into it. But you still had to buy infrastructure, maintenance costs, power, personnel to run, all of that. Comes in cloud. Cloud is saying, okay, with all of the investments you are carrying out, I'm going to take away that burden
of having to do with infrastructure,
having to
investing,
do with isolated, exactly, right? And now you can provision for all of that at the click of a button. So instead of having brick and mortar, you just provision what you need in the cloud and the solutions you have connecting to it. Now this is the interesting part. Assuming you're offering a service, so let's say bank or e-commerce site, and you have volumes or traffic building up always at the end of the month. Previously, you're going to buy infrastructure to support that volume, expand, right? Now, if it's not the end of the month, you've already bought the infrastructure.
That's true.
The cost is invested in it, right? But, I mean, ultimately, it's only at the end of the month that you actually be using it. Cloud takes away that cost element in that, I think you mentioned the pay-as-you-go model, right? So if it's the end of the month, I scale up to support the transactions coming through. If it's not the end of the month or anytime within the month, I reduce the infrastructure and I pay less. So that's the flexibility that you have around cloud. So that's just showing what existed before what exists
now, an entire system
exactly.
around it. Yeah. Let me get back to you, Mr. Ajari. You are in the education field, constantly training people to better equip themselves with the new and changing ways of technology in order to fit in the working space. Yeah. How important, or what is the importance of cloud computing in education? Okay. Before we get employed, in education, how important is cloud computing, and why must we even learn on that?
Okay. In education, now libraries, we don't even have to build libraries.
Okay.
Because libraries are all over the cloud. You just need to subscribe for it, and then you have all current books. And then, aside that, as we train people on high-end technologies, server technologies and so on, we don't even need to buy the service. We just need to subscribe, and then the student have access to the subscribe services, and then we teach them through. And now all the technology-wise, all the education things, they are all over the cloud, especially when we want to do virtual classes.
I mean, like how we used to do, and then how we had to switch on that during COVID and that.
Yes.
Okay.
You just have to host your service on cloud, and everyone can just tap into it and attend class. You don't need to buy resources sitting somewhere to manage that. So there are a lot of things that you don't need to spend so much, because if it comes to Cisco labs and so on, it's quite expensive. Education institutions cannot afford. So what we have to do is we have to buy the student to have access to the lab and start learning from there. So with that, it reduces costs for education sector as well.
And of course, it saves us time. Because what would usually spend maybe 6 months for, we can do it in maybe 3 months, because there's a simplified and far more accessible cloud that has all the information on there. Let me talk to you, Mr. Amegashi, on what you look out for these days when you're employing new people into the workspace in terms of cloud computing or their skillfulness in cloud? Has it become so important that you need to be well equipped with regards to things and elements that has to do with cloud computing in order to get a job? If yes, what are some of the things you look at?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so it's become important, right? I mean, coming into the employment space, I mean, right from school, obviously you would have to be building up your skill sets to ensure that you're able to fit into the world of work. But what has happened over the last couple of years, especially post-COVID, is that there's been COVID has definitely altered the way we've run our lives now, right? There's a lot of digital or virtual nature to our lives now. Due to this, what we're seeing is that now institutions, I mean banks like ABSA, etc., need to be innovating as quick as possible, bringing solutions on board as possible. Now, to be able to do that, we need people or we need resources that are well equipped and have knowledge in where the world is heading to. So cloud has definitely become important. Now, what we normally look out for is that an individual has a basic understanding of the cloud concept, right? The fundamentals, be it the technical or the business essentials, right? You know, at the very start, I mentioned I like to also look at it from a business point of view because it's about value delivery, right? So we look out for individuals that have that. Once you have, there are different certifications, and I'm sure my colleague from IPMC has a view of that, right? But if you have the certifications, it's a plus, right? Because obviously it means then you're well equipped in the concept and you're able to deliver the value that we want. But a basic understanding of the cloud, how it supports business, how it's able to drive us to the next level at the basic or the minimum is what we look out for. Having any other certification is a plus.
Yeah. All right, so you now know the importance of being equipped when it comes to cloud computing. It is a thing now. Our business space is evolving. Things are constantly changing. My two guests have mentioned the importance of cloud computing in the education field and, of course, in the employment field as well. In all, I mean, overall, are there any parts of cloud computing in the workspace and in the education bit what people don't really understand? Things that people still get wrong in there, things people don't understand beyond they being equipped and all that. Have you had instances where things happen and situations come up? Situations, I mean, let's break it down. Let's be quite realistic on that. People get access to information they're not supposed to get into, or security issues come up. Yeah, let's work around all that.
Thanks. I think, I mean, with any technology, obviously there are
the bad sides to it.
The downsides to it, right? For cloud, I think maybe what we normally realize is people taking up the learning curve with cloud, right? Because as a technical person, you're honed in on your physical infrastructure. You can see it, you can feel it. You're taking care of the platforms. You have certain expectations, right? With cloud, you're normally, it's not before you, but you have, do I say, a dashboard, a management tool to navigate and work around. So you normally have that learning curve, which at times catches people off guard, right? But with certification, etc., you become adept at it. The second, I think, key part has to do with security. Okay.
Very important.
Security, it's very, very important. And housing data in cloud doesn't mean that you have to not enforce security principles. They are still key. The cloud offers you a lot of plethora of security options to secure data. But the key thing around it is that even though we mention, and I think that's one misconception, that we mention that a cloud is at a click of a button, it does not mean that you don't have to put in place or enforce the security capabilities. Because most often than not, individuals in the technology space feel once you set up in cloud, the cloud is secure to take care of it, right? But there are security offerings or options on the cloud that you have to put in place to ensure that you are securing data and you're securing your application. Just housing it in cloud doesn't solve for that, right? It's just it's like having your house, and putting in something. So it's in the house. That's it.
You
need to lock it, your bolts,
security
your door.
systems.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that.
That's
For
it.
the sake of young people who are looking at starting their own businesses, for the sake of my entrepreneurs who are watching today, you mentioned something very important, which is also, address security when it comes to data and then cloud in workspaces. What are some of the things, since you are an expert in that, what are some of the things young people should look out for or things they should do in order to secure their cloud systems?
Yeah. The cloud, let me say, most of the organizations hosting these cloud systems have their securities in place.
Okay.
But then, as my colleague said, aside that, you yourself have to plan your security, how you have to protect your cloud. Now, planning security is not something that you just sit. You need to get people involved who can test your system. We call ethical hackers, one kind of people who are trusted with your data and can test your system to see whether it's secure or not. Now, and these ethical hackers, they do not steal.
Okay.
They are just there to test your system to see whether
So they're
it
just
fits
there to show you how fit
yes.
your system is
yes,
or not.
is
Okay.
or not. And we train students on that as well.
You do?
And yes.
Okay.
And we make sure that you are going out, not to be a thief, but going out
Just to go and test the systems,
to
right?
test systems.
But
to
do you
support
employ people
all
like that, Mr. Megashi? Not to cut you, sorry.
Yeah, we employ cybersecurity experts.
Okay.
Yes,
I think you
who
would
look
tend
at
them.
them. Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. They have all that skill set
Okay.
in play. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we ever going to get to a point where cloud systems will finally take over workspaces and workforces? So let's say I'm starting a business, okay?
Yeah.
And I would usually maybe get a secretary or get somebody to keep data for me. If I have, a cloud system, if I can subscribe to a cloud system, do I still need to get someone who's going to constantly take care of all the data and all that when I have that? Are we going to advance into that space at any point, at any time in the future?
Yeah, so technology is continuously evolving, right? And its application will also evolve. But the beauty of it is that once it evolves, right, it carries along the people aspect of it. So what you would have or what you would realize going down the line is previously you were probably capturing, you had, like you said, you had an entry clerk capturing a lot of data. You might not need that now, right? Because you have your customers having a self-service feature where they just input their data and store it somewhere. But that doesn't mean that data entry clerk goes away, right? You can equip that data entry clerk to probably be a finance analyst, right? Or somebody who is adept at designing interfaces. So it goes to the reskilling aspect, right? So there will be new opportunities as cloud is coming through, and people just have to take advantage of that.
Mr. Ajari, do you think beyond spaces like IPMC, teaching the various elements in cloud computing should be an integral part of our general educational system? Should it be a part of the basic education system?
Yes, I think so. It has to be part of our basic education system because before you can access the cloud, you should know how to operate internet, and you now not go to to the office and start asking, how do I access this application? How do I access that? But if you are trained in that, at least from your basic education, you can understand.
Okay.
Now, in Africa, we have not delved that much into cloud businesses, but out there, people stay at home and still perform their duties at work fully without going to the office, because wherever the person is, he can still perform the same duty. Now, what we face today is driving from one place to another has become an issue now. But supposing all organizations have adapted cloud computing, you can stay at home perform your duty. You don't have to drive from long distance before you get to your office space. And then after that, you close later again, stay in traffic, and go back. If company adapt to this cloud system, you be anywhere and work from that place, and you have more time to produce more instead of wasting more time in traffic. So if our businesses and our education system have adopted this idea, we won't have any problem at all. We can have enough time to produce more instead of wasting more time in other things that are not necessary.
Okay. I asked this because, you know, IPMC is a tech institution, and so people who would come to IPMC would come because they want to hone their skills in technology, in particular fields. I asked that because it's not really a thing people do. I personally didn't touch on anything technology while I was in uni, you know, and now I get to a point where I need to equip myself with the skills in order to you know, increase my employability, you know, opportunities. It becomes sort of like a challenge for me because now I have to spend time and come to IPMC and spend maybe 3-4 months to do it. But if I had the opportunity earlier to get the basics in that, if it becomes an ample part of our training as students in all institutions, then it becomes easy for us to, you know, just quickly rush through and then get into the space we want to work.
So we are so happy having this partnership with APSA because from the initial stage, all our lower courses, beginner courses, we have added this AWS partnership, cloud computing partnership course to our programs. So whoever that comes to IPMC, at least you have knowledge of cloud computing before you can go into any large technology. You have that idea already because we are going to train you on high-end cloud computing applications. And if you do not have the fundamental, it means you lack there. So we've added it to all our fundamental programs, and it's some good initiative APSA have taken. And I'm sure we're going to have more programs coming up.
All right. Okay, sure. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Justice Amegashi. Sorry, Mr. Daniel Ajari. So let me come back to Justice, sorry. Justice, so he's spoken about the reason why they brought about the partnership. Why is APSA as a brand now training, you know, young people in cloud computing?
Okay. So for us at APSA, like I said, it's obviously about bringing possibilities to life, right? In terms of delivering value to our communities, and in delivering value to our communities, equipping our communities with the requisite skills to be able to be forward-looking is quite important for us. Now, in any, and I think Mr. Jerry spoke about the technology now catching up in this side of the world. In any setup or let's say endeavor to transform a society, the people are quite important in that endeavor. So for us at APSA, with where the world is headed, with digital technologies, digital transformation, which at the heart of it is business transformation supported by digital technologies, we felt that it was essential that we actually build up the youth to have, cloud natives that go out there and ensure and empower societies to be able to catch up when it comes to our transformation as a society or as a country, right? And we felt that putting this in place obviously places us, one, in strong partnership with IPMC, but it also puts APSA out there as a key supporter of the digitalization agenda, and I think it's one that the government itself is also pushing, right? And I think lastly, being able to have a lot of cloud natives, right, and cloud specifically, going out there, going into different industries, adding value, etc., ultimately pushes us a notch higher as a country. So for APSA, it's just about adding value to the society, right?
That's beautiful, and we all attest to that. One perfect example of how APSA is trying to train young people in cloud, computing. Of course, the various elements in there is the entire Ready-to-Work platform itself. Exactly. You know, there's a cloud that young people can also get on and train themselves, equip themselves with the soft skills that will put them ahead of others when they're getting into the workspace. And so thank you so much, I mean, for making all this happen and breaking that down for us. We're going to talk about the role of mentorship and, you know, training under cloud, you know, computing in the workspace and, of course, in the training field as well. Why you need somebody that's ahead of you to coach you and give you the right skills you're supposed to know or have in cloud compute. We'll do that right after this commercial break.
Everyday life. Everyday life.
All right, welcome back to Ready to Work, powered by APSA, that's Africanacity. I'm here in the studio with Mr. Justice Amegashi, Chief Information and Enablement Officer at APSA Bank, and then Mr. Daniel Ajari-Boateng, Head of Academics at IPMC. Before the break, we spoke about the entire concept behind cloud computing, the importance of cloud computing in the workspace, why it's even important for a young person trying to fit in the workspace to equip himself or herself with skills under cloud computing. We talked about all that. We're going to go into your questions in a bit, but if you have yours ready, kindly drop it in the comment box on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, drop it in the comment box. On Facebook, drop it in there as well. And if you're watching us on Zoom, do drop it in there. Don't forget to add your name, by the way. Final thing I want to get from my guest this morning, what is the role of mentorship in cloud computing training? I'll take it from you first, Mr. Justice, in the workspace. Why should I even get a coach when it comes to cloud computing? And who should I even look at? What skills, or sorry, what features should I look at in picking who I want to go to get coaching when it comes to cloud computing?
Sure. So yeah, coaching and mentoring, I mean, are key. I mean, in any endeavor, and especially cloud computing, once you're entering the workspace. Once you enter the workspace, you need to look out for individuals that obviously have that skill set. You need to look out for individuals that, aside having that skill set, have also had that experience gone through the journey of cloud, and quite grounded in it. Okay. And now, the advantage that gives you is that ultimately, when you enter any work endeavor, you need that practical experience to be able to navigate around whatever technology you're going to use. And having a coach or mentor is someone who can handhold you and guide you in different aspects or spheres of cloud. Cloud, by its very nature, is broad, right? And being able to get a coach that shows you the path that you could take, the path that best suits you, obviously with you taking that decision, is quite important. Yeah. Because you could either go down the route of cloud security, go down the route of storage when it comes to cloud, or building solutions on cloud. Numerous opportunities, right? But having someone guide you, walk you through every aspect of it is important. I think the other piece is that in going down that journey with the individual, you are also able to pick up insights that ultimately shape your career path, right? Because you could start off in cloud and you'd realize that maybe whilst in cloud, your passion is for banking as itself, right? I mean, for instance, I'm banking myself, right? So that passion could come out of there, and you need someone to be able to guide you to take those steps. So for me, coaching, mentoring in cloud, like any endeavor, is particularly important. But in a technical field or a technical area like cloud, having one with a higher level of expertise is key to quickening up your pace in that world.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Justice. I'll come back to you, Mr. Ajari Boateng. What do you think in the education field?
Exactly what my brother said. The main thing is when you come into technology field and you do not get good coaching, you might end up not being able to use the knowledge you have acquired. And you have wasted a lot of time also there. So it's always best to get a mentor who can actually help you get to where you want to go. Yes. When it comes to cloud, as he said, there are different areas that you can go into. The infrastructure building, and that's unless someone that have been trained in system engineering can go into that direction. Okay. Someone who is good in database can also do storage as well. Okay. And then there are people who are also good in application development aspects, that is software engineers who also develop the applications on the cloud for the users to use. So there are different ways, but you need coaching. You need someone to tell you where you can go before you can do that. Other than that, at the end, you might not achieve what you expect.
I like that. So I picked two things from what they said, their submission to that. Pick a mentor or a coach and get a plan, okay? Get a plan. Don't just go in there to train. Don't just go in there to learn about the various elements in cloud computing. As Justice mentioned, while you learn that, there are various sectors you can apply your skills to, but you need a particular mentor or someone who's well-versed in where you're trying to venture into, someone who has experience beyond what you already know, to help you know the specifics in the future with regards to what you want to do. At this point, I'm going to take your questions. If yours is ready, kindly send it through. Message in here from Stephen Hash says, please, does certification from online learning platforms like Coursera and edX get accepted? If I'm getting a job at APSA and I did my tech course on Coursera or TEDx, edX, am I still going to get accepted, or I need to go to IPMC, do it fiscal? Because we're talking about cloud. Yeah. And so if I did my course on a cloud system or a cloud platform, am I going to get accepted?
So, you know, there are different levels of entry, right? Okay. And different roles that ultimately the person could fit into, right? Depending on what the role requires, obviously, then you see the level of skill set that is. But starting off with Coursera and EDX are particularly important, right? Because it grounds you. Yes. You have a good understanding of what the concept is. And it's a perfect building block on which to stand. And if you want to go in for the certification with IPMC, you can. But definitely there are opportunities at different layers of.
So I mean, once you can learn, any platform through which we can learn is fine. But as he mentioned, if you need the certification bit of it, once it's going to get you the certificate to prove that you've actually equipped yourself in the skill you're talking about, then you're good to go. Another one in here says, many companies do not take the time to consider what they may need to put into place prior to shifting to the cloud. I'd like to ask, what do I need to prepare for the cloud? I think you can better answer that.
Yeah. First, as organizations, you have to think of what you are expecting. Okay. You don't just go in and sign up for cloud, but you have to know which this department, what do they need? That department, what do they need? Then now you can subscribe to the cloud, because if you just go and subscribe, you might not need those things you are subscribing for. So you might be paying something that you don't need. So all that you have to do is plan your department, their needs, before you get into cloud computing.
All right. Another one in here from Nana Kusi, and I think this one is a contribution. So when we talked about the importance of cloud computing in the workspace, Nana Kusi wanted to add some more. It says new opportunities in reskilling. Two is, okay. All right. Two says on-demand access to computing power, like you mentioned.
Exactly.
And then affordability. So as a brand, if you're a young person trying to set up your own business, getting into the world of entrepreneurship, if you employ cloud computing as part of your systems, what you do is you spend less in building infrastructures to manage and then run your business. Of course, cloud computing is a better way to run in your business. You also learn a new skill. You're able to add on new skills to it. And then affordability has been mentioned already.
Able to scale quickly.
Yes, exactly. You're able to manage your time, get a lot of time for yourself in order to advance into other things and all that. Let me see if I have another question for us before we wrap up. This in here says, okay, as a businessman, how do I know if cloud is right for my business? I think Justice would better answer that.
Okay, so as a businessman, and it depends, on the type of business, right? But I think my colleague here also mentioned, initially you need to identify what you're trying to solve for, right? So a businessman, what are you into? What are you trying to solve for? Have a plan around it, okay? So if it's into buying and selling, obviously you want to be able to reach out to your clientele much quicker, let them have access to your solutions online, right? Ultimately, you need to have something like a website that supports it, okay? You go for a cloud-based solution. Obviously, there'll be a developer that develops this for you on cloud. You don't need to buy physical infrastructure for that. So that caters for your need. And you're able to scale quickly. Now your customers have access to your site. Your infrastructure cost is almost negligible. You're just paying maybe a developer and then maintain the place. But people are accessing you from any part of the world. I think that's the key part of it. So the initial thing is to identify what you're trying to solve for, have a plan around it, and just go in for the right technologies or speak to the right people and you'll be able to scale.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to wrap up with one final thing. I want to ask us, into the future, where do we think cloud computing is going to send companies in the digitization journey, as you mentioned? New companies, what do you foresee next 3, 4, 5 years? What's going to happen in the field? In education as well, maybe you might want to add yours.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think next 3, 4, 5 years, competition is going to get much more intense. The customer is still going to stand out in terms of looking out for businesses that give the most value, right? So the businesses that are able to adopt cloud computing technologies will be those on top, able to scale quickly and offer the customer what they want. That's the ultimate thing about business. If they are able to do that, then those businesses
will
be
in the lead. And I know APSA will definitely be in the league then. Mr. Jare.
Well, the education field as well, since IPMC have already started the cloud drive, teaching people on the cloud and all that. In few years to come, I think when this COVID started, we also what happened to the education system. We have to subscribe to certain ways of teaching. And it's still going to happen. I'm not saying it should happen again, but as the world is going, it's going to be the same. And we all need to find a way to adapt or to accept cloud computing into our system. And before we do that, we should have people who have the skills
to do that,
to be able to work with that. And to get that skills, you need to get trained. And it's good if we introduce it into our basic education to build people, to start selling the idea to our young youth coming up. That will help a lot.
All right. Thank you so much. That's a beautiful way to wrap up the importance of cloud computing into our systems. We've basically broken down the various parts of it. Beyond this, I think if you want to still find out more, the Ready2Work platform is here for you to solve all that. A big thank you to Nana Kusi on Facebook, Stephen Nash, Efia B, and Othniel Amankwa Dankwa for contributing on the comment or in the comment box for our conversation today. Now, before we wrap up the APSA Ready2Work program, provides materials that help young people develop their work, people and money, as well as entrepreneurial skills, okay? That's an online platform. It's an online tool which offers members the flexibility to choose times and paces at which they want to learn, and of course complete the various modules that are in there at their own convenience. And so if you're locked in now, if you're watching us and you want to get on the platform and then improve yourself or improve your skills on all the things we've spoken about and the ones in the past and the new ones that are ahead, kindly get on the platform. Okay, the link is www.readytowork.absa.africa. www.readytowork.absa.africa. Kindly log on and then complete the modules at your own pace. Now, the platform has also been developed into an app for easy access with additional benefits, and it's available on the iOS platform, that's Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and then on the Huawei devices store as well. If you have any comments you'd like to share with us, your views on this particular webinar that we had, kindly get on at ABSA Ghana on Facebook with the hashtag ReadyToWork. Join in, share your experience with us. If you want to go further, you can upload a 30-second video on Instagram. Just tag us, tag me, Rev, tag ABSA Ghana, put in the hashtag ReadyToWork, and we'll definitely repost it so your friends can also see and understand how you feel about the platform. Whatever happens, make sure you take advantage of the ReadyToWork platform. I entreat every single person to do that. Thank you so much for making time with us today. We'll definitely come back sometime soon with another interesting topic. But a big thank you to Mr. Justice Amegashi, who's Chief Information and Enablement Officer from ABSA Bank, and then Mr. Daniel Ajayi Boateng, Head of Academics at IPMC, for making our conversation a beautiful one today. My name is Eskin, and as always, it's been great, staying with you and serving you. Catch you next time on here. A big thank you to ABSA. That's Africanacity. Have a wonderful time and enjoy the rest of your day.
Everyday life.